frequently. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Broadcasting Corporation getting steady breakage in transmission. Don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Still they tell me sing something. Rebel sing something. Sing something. Let me hear you sing. They want me to jam something. Jam something. They say jam, jam, jam something. They're telling me something. Something, something, jam something, hey, hey, something, you're telling me something, they say, jam, jam, jam something, hold on. I like that. Whenever I stay away from Calypso, then people just say, Rebel, don't do that no more. But when I sit down late at night and writing this song, so they can jump and prance when Masha Money come. I used to sing about President Bonham and President Desmond. They didn't want to hear that. They didn't want to hear that. But if President Chedi do something wrong, he too are putting in song. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Still they tell me sing something. Rebel sing something. Sing something. Let me hear you sing. They want me to jam something. Come on, jam something. They say jam, jam, jam something. Still they telling me something. Hey, hey. Something, something, jam something, 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 hear them, jam, 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 some frequently. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Broadcasting Corporation getting steady breakage in transmission. Don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Still they tell me sing something. Rebel sing something. Sing something. Let me hear you sing. They want me to jam something. Jam something. They say jam, jam, jam something. They're telling me something. 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 Jam something. Hey, hey. Something. You're telling me something. They say jam, jam, jam something. Hold on. I like that. Whenever I stay away from Calypso, then people just say, Rebel, don't do that no more. But when I sit down late at night and writing this song, so they can jump and prance when Masha Money come. I used to sing about President Bonham and President Desmond. They didn't want to hear that. They didn't want to hear that. But if President Chedi do something wrong, he too are putting in song. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Still they tell me sing something. Rebel sing something. Sing something. Let me hear you sing. They want me to jam something. Come on, jam something. They say jam, jam, jam something. Still they're telling me something. Hey, hey. Something. Something. Jam something. 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 Hear them. Jam, jam, jam something. Can't help it. I had to come again this year. Give me even up my monkey dump As a Calypsonian, I always sing about anything I see or hearing, because I'm a plain outspoken man. For 6 years I had to settle for second. I know only recently about the split in the PNC. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Plenty people say it was mean to get rid of Hamilton Green. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Hey, still they tell me sing something. Rebel sing something. They want me to sing something. Let me hear you sing. They want me to jam something. Rebel jam something. Hey, jam, jam, jam something. They're gonna get something. 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 Jam something. Hey. Something, something, hey them, jam, 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 something, hey! I like the music. Soca hot, hip hop it, hip hop it, GP, I like this song. You remember last year, my celebration. I couldn't take part in the Calypso competition because I was late for the audition. I couldn't get a sing at all for the crown. They didn't want me to sing just because I feel they would win. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. But if the judging is fair and square, ever beat them again this year, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Still they tell me sing something. Rebel sing something. I like sing something. Let me hear you sing. They want me to jam something. Come on and jam something. Jam, jam, jam something. All the time they telling me something. 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 Jam something. 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 They tell me to jam, jam, jam something.
This is my second trip back to MASH, and believe me, I'm having a whale of a time this time.
Happy March to everybody.
It's the only thing that will bring me together. Like you win, see, long live matrimony. This festivity is true love and harmony. Who said mash is over? Or we go jam down talk and behave like if we're mad. We have one day, so we got to behave bad. You don't feel mash is great. You don't want to celebrate. You want to change the date. No, 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 no. I continue rock with he, a part of PNC. Now we're getting witty. I say I'm gonna sweeten he. I say mash is the festival. It's more than traditional. It's the carnival. And let's be rational. It's freedom of a united people. Struggling since we got here, hoping that one day things can be free and fair. Now that hard work was presto, and it's time to celebrate. So we sing calypso and pull costume with heavy weight. Oh no, who said mash is over? Tunilal them a come from West Demerara. Savage them a come from Blackbush Boulder. This festivity is true love and harmony. Like you win, see, long live matrimony. Who's the mash is over? We got jump downtown and behave like if we're mad. We have one day, so we got to behave bad. You don't feel mash is great. You don't want to celebrate. You don't want to change the date. No, 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 no. All right. Government can pick up the rest. They can even mash up the press. Touch my strong money. You gon' wither like a palm tree. Minister, I ain't threatening you. I don't like the thing I hear they gon' do. Man, who said mash up born and birthday? It's a mass participation. Hindu, Muslim, and Christians. All them armor Indians coming for the celebration. I said, boy, you make me feel real, but they go push a stick in me wheel. It's a listening dingo. We got people to promote calypso. Oh no, who's them? They're hot in my head, they're giving me fever. It's the only thing that gon' bring me together. This festivity is true love and harmony. Like I win, see, long live mash from money. Who's that mash is over? And we go jump downtown and behave like if we're mad. We have one day, so we got to behave bad. You don't feel mash is great. You don't want to celebrate. You want to change the date. No, 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 no. Mash the place. Let me celebrate. Move your way. Let me celebrate. Minister, I am very pleased. All my heart is at ease. Anytime you got anything, I am gonna sing. I am at your disposal, but I have a proposal. I don't tell Page and Dean, we taking mash to quarantine. He said everything is broad-based. We ain't looking at face. We go wine to the ground with Congo and just a drum. He said so many things I wanted. Everything is granted. Go what nice up the show with Steelman and Calypso. Oh no, who said magic? Tony Lal, them a come from West, them a rara. Savagely, them a come from Blackbush Boulder. This festivity is true love and harmony. Like I win, see, long live mash from money. Who said mash it? How we go jump downtown and behave like if we're mad. We have one day, so we got to behave bad. You don't feel mash is great. You don't want to celebrate. You want to change the date. No, 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 no. What a fiesta, Mr. Minister. Move!
We intend from next year to shift the mash, as you know, you must have been told this, to take it into May to coincide with the independence period. Because, again, we want to move away from all the symbolism of party paramountcy, all the symbolism of political domination. Why should politics dominate people's lives? Why, when you set about in your biggest national celebration, it must coincide with the founder leader's birthday, it must coincide with the coffee revolution? You know, why should it coincide with political things?
I know that there has been talk, not certainly not in governmental circles, of shifting the celebration from February down to May for the reasons, two reasons I adumbrated earlier before. But there are other considerations that will have that will have their effect really, and where not there'll be a change. My own particular feeling is that the celebration of Mashemani, the observance of Mashemani, will have to be linked more and more to tourism, and that it can be a kind of money spinner. Now, if you're going to think of Mashemani celebrations in terms of its potential for to bring tourists to Guyana, then you'll have to think of the kinds of things that tourists will have in mind. For example, if tourists will be coming from North America and they'll want to come to the Caribbean on a kind of a packaged sort of tour, they probably want to take in Mashemani and Carnival at the same time, and maybe Pagua celebrations in Guyana. Now, the moment you begin to think like that, then you can begin to see the value of having Mashemani at this time of the year.
We like it for the February. We can't get it from here. We like it in this month here. This month is getting better for most things inside here, you know. And you get better weather, for mash. And you get the good weather too. You got better weather for mash. And we got drink up. We sport up in them. Put up, dance up.
Party comes up with this lady by the name of Mother. Tall and slim and good looking, man, you think I got to get. So catch 'em in, everybody's waiting, Lord, and the music beats. So I went to she, I'll take a night for me.
Out to party,
and I come to jump in the band. I come to rock my body. Mr. Me ain't looking for man. I don't drink no whiskey, no I don't drink rum. I just come to party, and that's what you tell me.
out to party. Lie. Oh yes, I come out to party. Hey, good night. Welcome to Politics 101, where we do it. Politics 101, some history there. Good night to all of you, Lennox Anderson, all the Bookers, all the Baileys. Come out to party. The Mighty Smoker are taking you all way back in time there. That was 1995. Keith Beresford, I hear you say, I heard of the Calypso on Roger Khan. Please send it for me. I heard of it. Somebody mentioned it to me, but I never heard it. Mighty Rebel, the Calypso on Roger Khan, Keith Beresford, my Calypso man here. Taking you all back in time. I grew up near a rum shop at Button Station in Buxton. You had rubber Portuguese people there. The Corayas, and they had a rum shop there. So I grew up hearing Calypso and all kind of music and so on and things. But I really got into the real message of Calypso when I heard Professor Gordon Rollier. It must have been around 1972 on the radio one night. And he was tracing the political history of Trinidad from 1956 to 1972, using the Calypso of of the Mighty Sparrow. And I said, what? This is all this message in this music. So from then I started to listen to Calypso closely for the message. Those Calypsos you were hearing there, that was from 1995. 1995, almost 30 years ago. Some of you all were in short pants. Some of you all were in diapers. Some of you all might not have been born yet. For those of us, the old timers, we know. Carl, my brother Carl Wong, let me see, Carl, 1995, you would have just be a teenager. You would have just be a teenager, Carl, 1995. 1995. And you all heard the story there. They wanted to ban matrimony. They wanted to move matrimony from February and move it to May. And you heard, history is a good thing, eh? Our brother Moses Nagamutu was then the information minister. And you heard him there saying, our matrimony mustn't coincide with Barnum Borde. It must even coincide with coffee, rebellion, and blah, 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 blah. Moses eventually saw the light and left the PPP, became prime minister in the coalition. And I'm saying sometimes history is a good teacher. People can change. People can change. People can change. Dale Bisnot, the late Dale Bisnot, was then education minister, Reverend Bisnot, and you notice there he took a different view. He was looking at the tourism and say you come for carnival, then you come over to matrimony and maybe you take in Pagua. A lot of people used to do that in those days. They come for carnival, they skip over to matrimony and vice versa. But we noticed there that the PPP wanted to change matrimony from February. And it was a big uproar. The Calypsonians and the average man and woman in the street said, no, no, no. We heard Sweet Kendingo, quarantine man, singing there, no, 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 don't change the date, don't change the date, don't change the date. When you see the assault on Calypso, when they banned the Calypso by that little child, it's not the first time they're going after Calypso. They came into power in 1993, and that was one of the first things they wanted to do, was to ban Calypso, was to ban matrimony, move it from February, carry it to independence, and then turn it into something else. A little bit of history there. Of course, the mighty rebels sing something, and you saw them there. They were there in the national park when he was singing. If you notice some of them in the pictures, there the luncheon and the whole set of them, they were there at the park. And you notice their faces. You notice their faces at the Calypso. They don't have any relationship to Carnival, matrimony, and Calypso. It's a cultural thing. It's the African Guyanese gift to Guyana. Indian Guyanese gave us Diwali, they gave us Pagua. African Guyanese, they give us Carnival, they give us the Calypso. It is our tapestry. But yet, you don't want to move. You dare not say you're moving Pagua or Diwali from where it is, but you want to move matrimony. The bad way and the bad-mindedness of the PPP is not today's story. It goes right back there. And one of the things I like about Calypso is one of its function is its chronicle of history. You want to know what was going on in the society in 1995? Go back and listen to the Calypso. Go back and listen to the Calypso. It chronicles events. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101 tonight. We do it as we always do it on this program, and we always keep the culture there. There is politics, there is economics, there is sociology, there is psychology, but all of those things are steeped in the culture. Without culture, we are nowhere as a people. Our culture is our compass. Our culture is our compass. And that is why it's a political program, this program, but we do culture because culture is the essence of our lives as a people. Please share the link, and let them know that Politics 101 is on tonight. We just skin up the PPP. They wanted to ban matrimony. That was their intention. Move it from February, carry it to May, and when you carry it to May, it's no longer matrimony. It becomes something else. These people are cultureless. No upbringing, no sense of culture, no sense of belonging, no sense of what identity means. I hear some people saying there are some of us who hate the PPP. Well, I beg to differ. We weren't brought up to hate. So we don't hate the PPP. The PPP don't like we. They don't like Guyana. They don't like Guyanese who don't kowtow to them. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. I say over and over again, without our history, we are nowhere. Guyana did not begin last week. We have been on a journey to get where we are. If you had heard, let's say you're today 40 years old. So you were born in 1984. You're a big man now, you're a big girl now. You're 40 years old. But in 1995, you were 11 years old. And you would not have known at that time that they were trying to ban matrimony. But now you know it. Now you know it. And you heard it and you saw it for yourself. Documented in Calypso. Documented in Calypso. This morning I was on Brother Kedaki's program. And we were talking and I divulged a little piece of history. That in 1953, after the first election on the self-government, and there was an impasse as to who should become the premier. Some in the party wanted Jagan, some wanted Burnham, and there was an impasse. There was an impasse. And Martin Carter and Rory Westmus proposed Sidney King to be the compromise premier. Proposed Sidney King to be the compromise premier. Brother U.C. Guyana. And in my interview with Brother Guyana, he said Burnham had a key ring on his hand, and Burnham spun his key ring like this and said, I'll support him. And Jagan remained quiet. And Brother U.C. said, when he saw Jagan remain quiet, he said, not me. Nobody, I'm not going to go down in history that I take away the leadership from somebody. And so he turned down the proposal. Had Jagan said yes like Burnham did, I will support him, Sidney King would have become our first premier. And all this talk about who's the father of the nation, we would have to talk about him as the father of the nation. You know, sometimes we have to understand our history. Yeah. Sidney King could have become the first premier of Guyana. And Jagan said, I'll support him. Burnham said, I will support him. You see, some of my supporters and my good friends, they licked me down the other day because I tell the truth about Jagan. So, somebody said Jagan used the term Apanjat, and I said, oh no, he never used the term Apanjat. What he did is that he employed the concept of Apanjat to mobilize the support. He benefit from Apanjat. He didn't use the term. And everybody said, well, Doctor is defending Jagan. And they didn't realize, instead of defending, I was skinning Jagan up. But I understand that people are in a mood now that they don't even want to hear anything positive about PPP people. That is where the PPP has driven our people. But I'm saying our history is riddled with inaccuracies. And we have to be very careful not to repeat those inaccuracies. In 1964, many people went to Brother Guyana. By then he was Guyana. And asked him to run in the 64 election under the aegis of Askrea. And Brother Guyana went to Burnham. And he told Burnham, people are telling me to run. And Burnham said, well, if you do that, you will split. You will split the African vote. And Brother Guyana said that's all he wanted to hear. He did not want to go down in history as splitting the African vote. When you call to the big men in Buxton, some of them vexed with Guyana, you know. Because they say he had about 2-3 opportunities to become the prime minister, the premier of Guyana. But because he was not in love with power, he turned it down. Had he accepted in 1953, our history would have been different. Had he run in 64, our history would have been different. Instead of a coalition of PNC and UF, it would have been PNC, UF, and Askrea. And our history would have been different. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. Just giving you all some history. And to say sometimes we have to be very careful. Very careful. In 1957, at the 1957 election, Jagan went to Buxton at a place called Flores Hall and offered Brother U.C. Guyana the chairmanship of the PPP. At that time, Burnham had split and gone. And Guyana turned down the chairmanship of the PPP. He said, I will run in the election and as an independent. I will not run as Burnhamite PPP or Jaganite PPP. I will run as an independent. And he ran as an independent candidate. Burnham did not put up a candidate against Brother Guyana. Burnham did not put up a candidate against Brother Guyana in 1957. And after Brother UC turned down the chairmanship, Dr. Jagan told him, comrade, we will fight you. And they fought Guyana by putting a man named Balram Singh Rai who was an Indian nationalist, to run against Brother UC in the East Coast constituency, Buxton to Kitty. And Balram Singh won the seat, I think by 30-odd votes or something like that. And one of the persons who was there when the votes were being counted the night, and the votes were coming in from the African villages, and Guyana was in front, and they turned to Balram Singh Rai and said, Balram, a race done. Balram Singh said, race done? Race never done. Balram, a race done by Sydney go win. Balram said, race never done. y'all hear the play there. One is the race to win, and Balram Singh replied, race never done. Race never done, which means the African Indian ethnicity race thing. Just giving you all some tidbits of history. Some tidbits of history. And we have to know our history. We have to know our history. The point is that every person, every organization tells the history from their standpoint. A certain PPP member, former minister, he wrote a book, a whole book on history of Guyana, political history going back to the 50s, and didn't mention Guyana. And somebody said, well, oh, you didn't mention Guyana. You write all the time all about jargon. He said, well, that's David Hines work for right but Guyana, not me work. Guyana is going to be 99 in a couple of weeks. I am working feverishly to finish, how should I put it? I'm working on a larger political biography, but I'm trying feverishly in time for his birthday to finish a small, abbreviated biography, political biography, to tell the Guyana story. I hope I can get it finished in time and printed and published in time for his birthday. I'm working feverishly to get that done. I'm saying that to say that our history is a complex history. And the Jagan people are going to say Jagan is the father of the nation. And the Burnham people will say Burnham is the father of the nation. And nobody else played any role. As I said this morning, we are never too sure of fathers. I prefer mothers of the nation. You're always sure about mothers. And if I had my way, I would not talk about fathers of the nation. I would talk about pioneers. Tonight I'm talking about Guyana. Could have been the first premier. Could have been in his own right in that coalition government of 64. He wrote the party song for the PPP. He wrote the party song for the PNC. He wrote the party song for the WPA. And he will tell me, don't forget to say, I wrote the song for the Demerara Youth League. Father of the nation? Fathers of the nation? How do you come to that? They all contributed. They all contributed. The person who opened up Africa to Guyana, E.U.C. Guyana. Burnham came to power in 1964. He offered Brother U.C. to go to the United Nations as our first ambassador. Brother Guyana turned it down. He said, I'm not a diplomat. He said, but what I will do for you, I will go to Africa and introduce you to Africa. And he visited 13 countries in Africa to introduce Burnham and the new PNC government. As he was leaving, he took up a collection at Tipperary Hall. And he took that collection and he gave it to the freedom fighters who were fighting against the apartheid regime in South Africa. The first contribution that came from Guyana to the anti-apartheid movement, the first monetary contribution came from Buxton, taken by Guyana in cash money and give it to them 1964. And Guyana went there, visited 13 countries, African countries, and introduced Burnham and the PNC. Because a lot of the African countries, they had known about Jagan because Jagan was in the socialist movement and he was seen as a progressive. They didn't know Burnham well. And Brother UC went there to introduce Burnham and the PNC to Africa. And the rest of history, because Burnham then took it and he crafted an Africa policy, an anti-apartheid policy that was second to none in the Caribbean. But the person who opened it, who opened the doors of Africa to Burnham and the PNC and Guyana is UC Guyana. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. You all see they got something called the GMC, the Guyana Marketing Corporation. Guyana was the head of GMC. He worked for 1 cent per year. And through the GMC, they would give credit to farmers in the African villages and other villages. Give them credit. They would buy the piglets and buy the chicken and buy the thing, and then they will sell back to GMC and pay back the money. I remember as a small boy, the trucks that used to come around, they used to sell planting, one big bag planting for $1. GMC. Guyana was the head. The land reform policy enacted by Burnham, Guyana headed that. The committee to set up the Guyana Cooperative Bank, Guyana was part of that committee. I am saying to you all, comrades and brothers and sisters, our history is much more than this binary. We know of Jagan and Burnham because they are the leaders of the two big parties. But that is not all of our history. Our history is broader, richer. And sometimes we get into, we don't like this one and we hate this one and so on. They all contributed. They all contributed. I just give you all some of Guyana's contributions, some of them, not all of them, not all of them. We are today the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Mr. Burnham went to Mr. Guyana and they were chatting. And he said, we are going to become a republic. And Guyana said, what kind of republic are we going to be? A banana republic? Burnham said, well, I hadn't thought about it. Guyana said, well, why not a cooperative republic, since the cooperatives are very much part of our history. 1 week later, Mr. Burnham addressed the nation. And he said, and ours shall be the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. The author of the Cooperative Republic is UC Guyana. You all want more? You all want more? Right. You all want more? Rastaman. Rastaman. Yeah. You all want more? You all want more? Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. Tell them you all heard it right here on this program. Right here on this program. You all heard it right here on Politics 101. Good evening. Last night we talked. And I said we are at a critical point in our journey. We are now a petro state. We are now a petro state. We are seeing a Guyana that we never seen before. It is the fastest growing petro state in the world economically. The fastest growing petro state at any time in the world. You all are living in a country that is changing before your very faces. Our country is no ordinary country now. And the reason I'm stressing that, it is because if we diagnose the problem wrong, we will get the treatment wrong. And we are in the habit of diagnosing a Guyana of yesterday and not the Guyana of today. We are the fastest growing petro state in the world, unprecedented. We've never had a petro state that has grown as fast as Guyana. That's where we are. On today's program, you're asking the question that Dr. King asked. Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? When Dr. King was imprisoned in Alabama, and he wrote at the back of anything that he could find in the cell, what turned out to be that little book, Where Do We Go From Here? And I'm borrowing that question from Dr. King. Where do we go from here? We have to recognize what here is. We are the fastest growing petro state in the world. And when you are the fastest growing petro state in the world, you are no ordinary state. You are no ordinary country. Some of you may have seen how they were grilling Gail Teixeira at the United Nations. They grill her on corruption, on extrajudicial killing. They grill her on racial discrimination. They grill her on bad governance. And many of us sat and we looked at that in awe. The United Nations Human Rights Committee is grilling the government of Guyana because Guyana is the fastest growing petro state. We ain't easy now. The United Nations Human Rights Committee in the past may have looked at our case and, don't bother, little Guyana. But now, our government is pulled before the world. They pull down the pants and take some bellyache and bust their ass because we are the fastest growing petro state in the world, and what happens in Guyana will impact what happens in the world. I think some of our politicians are missing the beat because they don't realize how much our country has changed. We are now an important actor. We are chairing the Security Council. We are an important actor. We are a global actor. Not since the early years of the PNC, when the Burnham government played an important role in the non-aligned movement, in the Group of 77, in the anti-apartheid movement. Not since those days has the profile of Guyana been so high globally. I want you all to understand what I am saying here tonight. Because if we don't get this, we're going to get everything wrong. It matters, therefore, who governs. It matters who governs in Guyana. Our elections, therefore, take on a global importance. You see how everybody does be paying attention to American elections? Who gonna win, Trump or Biden? Who, Obama? Who? The whole world pays attention to American elections. We don't pay the same attention to British election or French election or German election. We pay attention to American election. You know why? Because America is the greatest country in the world. Greatest military might, great economically, and so we pay attention to what's happening in America. Guyana is not where America is, but we are important enough within the context of so-called third world politics. And so people are going to pay attention to our elections. And that is what happened in 2020. My friends in the coalition government, unfortunately, did not make the analysis I am making tonight. They did not realize that when we became a petro state, everything changed, including our election, and that who governs will be determined not just by people going out and vote, but by the engineering of those elections. And so regime change was effected, and our coalition government did not realize it until they were put out of power, because they did not make the analysis I'm making tonight. And as we move into the next election, we must not make the same mistake we made in 2020. Guyana is a changed place. The PPP got the first taste of power in a petro state, real power. Because by the time they throw the coalition out, the money didn't start to flow yet. First oil was 2019, they kick out the coalition in 2020. So in effect, the first petro state government in Guyana is the PPP government. And our attitude and analysis, attitude to an analysis of the PPP government has to be done within that context. It is the first petro state government in Guyana. It's a new formation. When you look at the PPP behavior, you look at everything they do, you have to understand it within the context, against the background of them being in charge of the fastest growing petrol state in the world and of all time. That is why the United Nations people pull them and take down their trousers in front of the world. And you know who was the chief questioner? Is the American man from the committee. Sisters and brothers, where am I going with this? I'm saying to our supporters, change your plan, up your game, change your narrative. This is not yesterday, play politics. We know in the big league, major league. I find that sometimes we treat today's politics as Sunday school politics. It's not. It's not. The first test, the first real test as to how this new petrol state is treating its citizens is the teacher strike. The real test. And the attitude of the government to the teacher strike tells us everything we want to know about this new governance and new government and new state in this era of petrol state. Our government in 5 years, has become drunk with oil. In all the petrol states of the world, they become drunk with oil. All of them. But we are the fastest growing petrol state. But our governors have become drunk the fastest. We have a government that is drunk on oil. We know what it is to be drunk with rum and beer and so on. We are now learning what it is for a government to be drunk on oil. Where do we go from here? We have to ban we belly and recognize that we have to plan differently. We have to plan differently. Some fights we have to tone down. I find that sometimes these days we are picking some small fights and turning them into big fights. And the big fights we are not taking on. There are signals that are being sent to us from around the world. The United Nations Committee, Human Rights Committee, is sending us a signal. The court in Guyana on the teacher strike is sending us a signal. The Americans, when they said that elections was a disputed election and we have to settle the question of power, they're sending a signal. The Black American leaders, Hakeem Jeffries and all of them, they're sending us a signal. But I don't think are recognizing the importance of those signals. I don't think we recognize where we are. And so we have a difficult time figuring out where do we go. We want boots on the ground. There was a time when I come into politics in the 70s, we had plenty boots on the ground because that was the era of boots on the ground. It was the era of revolution. You know, we're around the corner with me. We had Nicaragua Revolution in 79. We had Grenada Revolution. We had the Suriname Revolution. We had a mini revolution in Dominica that overthrew Patrick John. We had a mini revolution by the ballot box in St. Lucia. It was the era of revolution. We had the Iranian Revolution. We had revolutions all around. It was the era of revolution. In the era of the petrol state, the revolution is going to be different from it was in the 1970s. It's not that there is no longer going to be revolution, but the revolution is going to be different. The teachers' strike is significant. This morning on Kedaki's program, I removed from the lexicon, my lexicon, victory and winning, because I said the teachers had won. They had won victories along the way, and I believe that. But when you say the teachers won, then you make the opening for some of our supporters to say, no, the teachers lose. The teachers haven't lost. The teachers have won massive victories that we will not understand the significance of right now. It will take us probably 5 to 10 years to understand what the teachers have won for themselves and won for us. No. We got to change the way we look at politics. And I say tonight with great love. Great love. We got to change the way we approach elections. I hear a lot of my comrades say, and we must vote them out. And that's the language of the past. It's not who we vote out, it's who and what we vote in. Are you hearing me good tonight? You're looking to vote out people. In this era of the petrol state with billions of dollars that can transform our society, it's not who we vote out, it's who we vote in. And what we vote in. Are you hearing me tonight? We have to stop this slack talk because we must vote them out. Our election must serve to vote in, not vote out. As an old wake singer, they say, wet your words. You sing awake. Cousin Christy Bell said, teacher, wet your words, wet your words, wet your words. It's who we vote in and what we vote in. We got to start thinking, and we got to start outthinking our opponents. It's what we vote in and who we vote in with what we vote in. Every man got a right to determine his own destiny, says Brother Bob Marley. In every man's chest there beats a heart. Soon we'll find out who's the real revolutionaries. Because I don't want my people to be tricked by mercenaries. Because I don't want my people to be contrary. I don't want you all to be tricked by mercenaries. I don't want you all to be contrary. This next election is not about who we voting out. It's about who and what we voting in. Are you hear me? GCOM is rigged against the opposition. If you hold an election today, GCOM is going to hand the election to the PPP. The voters list is rigged against the opposition. If you hold an election today without voters list, the PPP has already rigged the hell out of that election. The impersonation that we saw in 2020 is going to quadruple. The electoral machinery has been hijacked by the PPP. Let's get that straight. How do we change that? We got things smart. Some people will say, the revolutionaries will say, well, the elections are rigged, so we must boycott the elections. Well, if they hold an election tomorrow and you boycott it, the PPP will win 65 seats. You all imagine the PPP with 65 seats in parliament? They got 33 now. You imagine them with 65? You all see how the thing is complex, but it is not insurmountable. It is not. We just got to think and plan differently. The opposition, the government, PPP people are trying to trap the opposition. And they're telling the opposition, listen, you can win an election. All you have to do is to tone down your rhetoric. Don't worry with David Hines and Tagbo race. Tone down your rhetoric. Leave people like David Hines off your platform, because they will scare away crossover voters. Tone down your rhetoric. And then go after crossover votes. Go into the Indian communities and try to win them over. The same people who are telling the opposition that, they already in the Indian communities telling them that the PNC is the devil. Burnham is the devil. Black people are devils. So they're telling you, don't worry with David Hines and talking about black people and black people and black people. You tone down your rhetoric and you go and talk to Indian people. They already tell Indian people you're the devil. Should we go and talk to Indian people? You bet. You bet we should. We must. But that cannot be your only strategy. The average turnout in the opposition community, in the black community, is 77% at the last 2 elections. It means 2.5 out of 10 of our supporters did not vote in the last 2 elections that we actually won. Well, not 2020. 2020 is disputed. I'm talking about 2015 and 2011. So we have to have a strategy to get that 25% of our supporters out. But we got to talk to them. Black people know that they're being discriminated against because they're black. Them teachers on the road, they tell you plain. They're treating we this way because the majority of us are black. All of a sudden, You hear some of my comrades have become the big Marxists. There is a class problem. They want to avoid race. They want to avoid calling black people black people. They want to avoid saying to black people, you are being discriminated and beaten up as black people, and we are defending you as black people. It doesn't mean that you don't defend Amerindians and you don't defend Indians. Indians are getting beaten up by the PPP, but their beat up is a different beat up. Black people getting bust up their eye and bruise up their knee and bungie up their eye. Indian people getting beat up, but they ain't getting bungie. They're getting a different kind of beat up. So we have to address Indian beat up differently than we address black beat up. It's two different beat up. Amerindian beat up is a different beat up. Black people are being beaten up with PPP because black people stand in between the PPP and total control of our petrol state. The majority of black people are not going along with the PPP. They are the fly in the ointment, so they're getting beat up and bungie up. The majority of Indian people are voting PPP. Some of them will vote PNC/coalition. So their beat up is a different beat up. They're getting beat up, but they ain't getting put out. Black people getting beat up and put out. Take your bundle and go. That's what they're telling the teachers. Ice your bundle and go. But when it comes to Gawu, they're not telling Gawu. They beat up Gawu a little bit. Sugar workers the other day in New Amsterdam area there last year, but then put them out. They beat up the teachers and put them out on the road. Our strategies. We need strategies. We need strategies. Where do we go from here? We have to recognize where we are. We are at a pivotal moment in our history. At a pivotal moment in our history. Nobody wakes up in the morning and said, I don't like black people and I'm going to treat them bad. I don't think the PPP leaders do that. There may be a couple of them who are inclined in that direction. But they don't wake up and say, black people bad and we're going to treat them bad. They wake up and they say, how do we retain power? How do we hold on to absolute power? And one of the ways of holding on to absolute power is that we need to subdue the constituency of the other party. And who make up the constituency of the other party? Africans. So we have to subdue Africans. And how do we subdue them? We try to bribe a few of them. We try to beat a few of them. We try to scare a few of them. We try to bully plenty of them. And when they do it with a smile. They do it with a smile. They go into the community and they look for 4 or 5. And they say, hey, come. Look a car. And you drive the car around BV and Golden Grove. And you tell them you get it from the PPP. And black people like shine car. So when they see you shine car, tell them come over to the PPP, they're going to get shine car too. They have a strategy for where we go from here. We have to have a strategy for where we go from here. I'm an old political street fighter. I come out of that era. But today, we got to fight on the street. We got to fight off the street. We got to fight in the trenches. We got to fight in the rivers. Where do we go from here? The old-time revolutionaries have to become new-time revolutionaries. Going to an election with a rigged electoral system is a bad option. Boycotting an election and leaving the field to the PPP is a bad option. Dr. Hinds, what are you saying? What are you really saying? Let me repeat. Going to an election where the system is rigged against us is a bad option. Boycotting an election and leaving the field to the PPP is also a bad option. Therefore, Dr. Hinds, what is the good option? Hey. Florence Bacchus, when she see me in Buxton, she lived near Bering Ground, so when we got to funeral, the pass she said, Florence, she's a big girl for me. Florence, she said, bye. Me like when you tell them this. I'm saying this tonight. Think. We got to think this thing through. And we have to push our leaders to think this dilemma through. And I'm saying we have what it takes to think it through. And win. And vote in people. You see, if we give ourselves the limited task of voting out the PPP, that's half, a quarter of the job. Is what we vote in, who we vote in. That is what we have to figure out now. And if we figure out what we voting in and who we voting in, then the strategy to get it done is going to fall in place. Sisters and brothers, you all have to start pushing your leaders to think differently. This is not a PNC fight, you know, or an AFC fight or a WPA fight. This is a fight to deliver Guyana from the chokehold, the stranglehold that the PPP as the first petro-state government has put this country in. That is our task. So, we got to come off a lot of the slack talk. We got to lift we game. The United Nations Human Rights Committee, they're sending us a signal. The Americans are sending us a signal. That they're not going to do the work for us. They're looking after their interests. And they're not going to base their interest on whether the PPP is corrupt or not corrupt. They probably will prefer a corrupt PPP than an uncorrupt PNC/coalition. So they're not going to do the work for us. We got to do our work. And we have to recognize when there are openings. If you pass and you say, bye, there is not an opening, you can pass and go along your way. But if you recognize there's an opening, you're going to pass. And you're going to say, let me push my head inside there. But if you don't think it's an opening, you pass and go along your way. If you don't think that the teachers have given us an opening, then you pass and go along your way. Some of our comrades are saying the teachers lose. So they bust them off. They can. The only game in tongue is if the teachers stay on the road and strike. And they're not recognizing that the struggle is multifaceted. Teacher George Young used to say, Guinea border Allah, another yale. You hear Guinea border, you make enough nice, and you go look for Guinea border again. There. When me a little boy, I used to play Duck and Drake, your pelt brick pan the water, pop, 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 pop. Where Guinea border holla, not a yellow. If we do not recognize when there are openings, we are not going to be able to seize the time. We have to change the lens in our spectacles. Don't stop wearing spectacles. Change your lens. Change your lens. Become in peace. Always. Because we're a peaceful people. Always. And we're talking the talk. The real talk. Because the action that follows has to be real. I love you all. Always. And we're going to do it again tomorrow. Tomorrow night, I'm going to have friends. I'm going to have guests. Tomorrow night, we're going to get in to talk about what's happening with them at the United Nations, Gail Tachir and all of them. We're going to be talking about that with my friends tomorrow night. Big panel tomorrow night. Big panel tomorrow night. You all have heard from me alone 2 nights in succession. Tomorrow night, big panel. Make sure you come. Same time, same place. Change the plan. Change the plan. Change the plan. Change the lens on your spectacles.